Life After Sunday, a podcast by dudes, for dudes, where faith meets the real world. For Eric Duval and Mike Norman, I'm Chris Boren. Let's go.
What up, fellas?
What is up, gentlemen?
Casey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's good to see all three of y'all again.
Well, today I've brought a guest in, my good friend of 25 years, Mr. Casey Phelan down there. He has the same haircut as I do. You look good there, buddy. Looking good.
Thanks, sir.
Must be a cop thing.
Oh, no, sir.
It's
a gene thing.
It's a getting old thing.
And meanwhile, the guy with the prettiest hair always wears his hat backwards. You have the prettiest hair. You always cover it up. Us bald people want to see your hair there, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
It's getting gray on the sides real bad, man.
Good.
Like worse.
I'm loving this, man.
He's like 22 years old, getting gray. What do you mean?
I love it.
You know how disrespectful and awful it is for the guy with the most hair to wear a hat?
Thank you, Casey. Thank you.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that mug. Oh, my goodness. That's a hair commercial right there, y'all.
See, Chris has got this whole fighter pilot thing going on. Whatever he does is cool. It doesn't matter.
That's true.
He's one of those guys that can look cool.
Doing anything. Yeah, make you sick.
Yeah. I hate it.
My wife always says the same thing. She'll give me a haircut and then I'll put a hat on. And she's like, "What are you doing? Why'd I just cut your hair then?"
Yeah, us bald people, we understand.
Yeah.
I think my dad was fully gray by the time he was 40. So,
Well, I want you to know that we're going to enjoy watching every strand grow out of that mug you got.
my wife is enjoying it too. She thinks it's
It's hilarious.
yeah. Well, she thinks it's hot. We'll see.
That's good. That's good. Today we're gonna talk about Casey and his life. I'm gonna introduce him here in a second, and then we want to go into we gotta talk about Trump. So we'll get to that. So if anyone's listening or wondering if we're going to talk about that, you betcha we're going to be talking about Trump. So with that, I want to introduce everybody to my friend, Mr. Casey Phelan. I met this man at our medical physical whenever we were both going into the police academy. He was born and raised in Pasadena. And here I am coming from Arkansas, and our instant connection was the love of Van Halen, which Eric helped introduce me to. You got the guitar in the background. We went to the Hall of Fame, the Music Hall of Fame. What is it? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Casey was in his zone, man, checking everything out. But I think it's funny, we're all in the same room, and Eric took me to my first concert ever, Van Halen. And then about 4 or 5 years later, I meet Casey, and that was our connection. But he grew up in Pasadena and then went on to join the Marine Corps, where he did law enforcement, and he was a canine, what do you call them, MPs?
Handlers. Yeah, I was a dog handler. MWD handler.
Okay.
Military working dog handler.
There you go. So then when he got done with the Marines, he came back to good old Pasadena. He decided he wanted to be a popo for the city of Pasadena, and he's been there for 25
Mike
years.
Is so street.
He served in patrol. He's been in canine. I forgot about juveniles. You were in juveniles for a while, and he's currently assigned to the domestic violence division.
Yes, sir.
He is married. He's 3 kids, and your wonderful wife, is she there right now, or she
is not. She
is.
No, she's not. She went to. She had a spa day, and then her and a friend are out shopping. So I got. She got me a list. She got me a list of honeydews, and then she took off.
That's the married life, man. Yep. Another interesting thing about Casey is that he has 2 brothers, and Casey is an actual twin. That is neat. And then both brothers are also in law enforcement. One's in LaPorte, Texas, and one's in Plano, Texas. So he is a complete military family. And did your dad also serve in the military?
Dad was in the Army. Yeah, Dad served in the Army around Korea.
So we have a whole family of service. And then Casey decided in his elder years, as he lost his hair, he was going to run for school board president of Pasadena, Texas. And he was elected and is the school board president of a very large school district. So this man has served his community immensely and continues to serve to this day, and we're very thankful for that. So we're going to get into your life story. And Casey, before we do that, because your life story is very interesting, man, I got to get everybody's thoughts on Trump. And I'll go last. So who wants to go first? Eric, what's your thoughts on this assassination?
Well, y'all show, so yeah, one of y'all go ahead.
Eric, you go first, man.
Oh, man. Okay. I'll go first.
Talk to me about this. What are your thoughts?
Man, I was super young when Reagan. They tried to kill Reagan when they tried to assassinate him. I think I was like 8, something like that when that happened. But I do remember my dad talked about that like a whole bunch, about how big a deal that was and how scary that was and sad and how big of an event it was. So when this happened last weekend, I was driving in the car and Mike texted me and said, hey, something happened. He said, his text said something happened at Trump rally. And immediately in my head, my mind started going, they just tried to kill him. That's exactly what I thought. And of course, I got the information and I kept thinking back to when I was a kid about how big a deal this is. And it was a family swim day for our church. So I was the guy glued to his phone taking in this. And I'm like, I don't think these people understand how historic this is and what just happened. And I kept thinking to myself, I was kind of mad. I was like, we've known this was coming. We all did. I felt it. I don't know about y'all, but I felt like this has been coming for a while. And I'm like, we still let it happen. And of course, moving forward now, but completely floored. Again, I still don't think, like my wife, my friends, some people around me don't realize just how big a deal that really was and how close we came to something like god awful happening in our country. If they would have succeeded in killing him, I can't even imagine what would have happened. But I'm glad he's here. I make no mistake about telling people I'm a Trump supporter. And I'm so glad he's here. And I'll just say that convention this week was one of the most inspiring things that I've seen in a long time. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Chris, where were you for this moment that you will remember for the rest of your life? And tell us any thoughts you got on Trump, man. It's fascinating stuff.
I was in my kitchen, just finished with dinner, immediately turned on the TV. And my heart just broke because it just shows the reality of where we are as a country. And I hate it so bad. I hate that on both sides, we're fighting each other. They want Trump out so bad they can't stand it. On the flip side, I think that this did nothing but help Trump in the end. It was a failed attempt. I think it rallied his people, Trumpsters. I think it rallied Americans on that side. I think that it humbled Trump a little bit. I think it took him down a little bit. I think he's a different person now. You could tell that if you watched his last speech at the RNC. You could just tell he wasn't as arrogant. He said one thing about Biden the whole time. It wasn't even about that. And in the debate, I was so sick of them blaming each other. I don't want to hear you blame him or Biden blame you. It's irrelevant. I want to know what you can do right now. And I think he did a great job of that. And, I'm going to be that guy. I think it was the left, the liberals. I think they planned it. I think they knew what was up. How could you not have known what was up? How could not do anything about it? They did know. We talked about the slope that the guy was on and all this stuff that's came out since the assassination attempt. It makes you wonder. But I think in hindsight, moving forward, that it does nothing but help Trump, help the GOP, and rallied everybody together.
100% and well said, sir. Casey, where are you at with this?
Well, just a little backstory, just to give you, I'm old enough I vaguely remember the Reagan thing. One of was it the Brady bill or whatever? That's not the Brady bill. One of the gentlemen that was shot and seriously wounded that happened to be the bill was named after, was around Reagan. It's sad. I would feel the same. Let me preface it with, I would feel sad regardless of if this was Trump or Biden, either one, just because I'm very pro-American, very pro, it's kind of like and Mike, you can understand this, our Mike and I can pick at each other about our different branches of service that we served in because we serve in the service. That's what we do. But somebody that never served wants to pick on Mike or me about our branch of service. The two of us will turn on that guy and be like, no, you can't, you don't have a right. I feel the same way about our president. That's our president, whether you like him or you don't. And I would feel the same way either way. No doubt about it. I believe in my heart of hearts that God had his hand on the situation at the time and saved Trump's life. Otherwise, we'd be having a completely different conversation, the four of us right here, right now, if things had gone the other way. I absolutely agree that it's humbled Trump. You could tell in his speech, his body language. You could tell. At the beginning, I think it was neat that he showed up all 4 days at the RNC. But you could tell those first couple of days, he didn't really look like he wanted to be there. He was kind of antsy sitting there and didn't really want to move around. But I think that was done on purpose to kind of get him back into the game and get his mind right and everything. I think more than ever, he knows now what he's got to do. And it's changed the way he used to be and what he's going on and the back and forth. I like the fact that he only said Biden's name twice. And when he was serious and he was on his teleprompter, he was direct. He was stoic. He was commanding. And I think on the other, it did what God intended it to do. Is I think this is going to bring the country together more so than it ever has before. So, I think it's a tragic thing that happened, and we can sit here in conspiracy theory all along about all the different things about it and the things that fell apart and what should have happened, didn't happen, those things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, luckily for us, the man's still alive, that he can talk about it, and he has perspective that nobody else does. And hopefully he uses that and he understands that it's a gift from God, that he needs to do the right thing and make this country better.
Well, I'm going to hit on a different note. I agree with everything that y'all said. To me, the thing that's really just rocking my world is the lapse of security that was possible for the presumptive nominee and potential president of this country. And I always, reference back to, and I think I probably texted you guys this, but the amount of security we assisted HPD with securing the Final Four concert venue. And so at the concert, we had 2 drones flying nonstop. 3 other agencies had their drones because HPD didn't actually have drones because they wouldn't let them buy Chinese DJI products, which was dumb. So they called in the smaller agencies to bring our drones, and we're all on the same thing. We've got corridors. We got a moving map. I can see where all their drones are. They had an anti-drone or a drone detection system there to detect other drones and for us to investigate if we see. The Department of Public Safety, Texas State Troopers, they have a really, really high dollar drone that flies it takes off and then it can turn and fly with fixed wing. And so it was circling the area constantly. We were on top of the Hilton, and the concert was right below us in the green area. The green area, big concert venue at the end. And then to my left at the top was the counter sniper team from HPD. And then when we were on our breaks, we would walk down through the crowds and stuff and just go check everything out. There were two F-250s, blacked out windows, and inside of the F-250s were fully armed SWAT team guys ready to respond just like this. I mean, and roads blocked off, people everywhere. We had all the tall buildings covered. Guys, this was for a concert at the Final Four. And yet not a single bit of that was present. Well, they had an assault team ready. They had counter sniper teams, yes. But it is basic security 101 to use technology, to have drones up, and for your perimeter to cover all high points. And if you can't cover them, you just put a guy up there. Just as long as he's up there, that area's covered. It also lets you see the crowd. And so you have to wonder in the back of your mind, when does the scale tip from negligence to willful intention?
Right.
And then let's also talk about
gross negligence is what it is.
Yeah, gross negligence. In criminal world, you get charged for gross negligence. It's called manslaughter, or when you didn't intentionally cause a death, but you recklessly caused it. You get charged with manslaughter. Same thing here. And then you look at the female agents, and this isn't a gender thing. Female is actually irrelevant. It's the size. You're trying to protect as a body on a 6'3" man. And when the agent wraps her arms around, which the one with the bun did a great job, she sucks in on him and she's under his armpit right here. You can't protect the president with 5'4" people. Who did this? Like, you've got to have, if he's 6'3", then you're looking for 6'3" and taller agents, because the whole purpose is a body shield.
Right.
And yet, two short females around him. I don't know, man. When you start really looking at this and the more information comes out, I've never been a conspiratorial thinker. But man, sometimes you got to start to wonder about all these. There's a lot of coincidences, and a lot of people don't believe in coincidences, and that's just if one happens. We have about 10 coincidences occurring. I mean, are y'all in the same thought process here?
Yeah. You talk about the agent size, just comparison, and it's just ironic that on that Saturday with the females and them trying, like one of the agents, the males, actually put his hand up like this was going to stop a bullet from doing anything to Trump's head as they were moving him to the car. And then you fast forward to the first appearance that he made at the RNC when he was just walking to his place. Every one of those guys was 6'5", 220, 230, and they moved with him, and that was perfect. So you can't tell me that what was good that Saturday in comparison to what they did that following Monday. I mean, you're absolutely right, 100%. Yeah. I've actually, during my Marine Corps time, one of the benefits of being an explosive dog handler is we did presidential support missions, and Clinton came and visited once, and I got to spend an entire day, or actually 2 whole days, with the presidential Secret Service detail with him. And at one point of it, we were actually the lead vehicle in his motorcade, but we were ahead of him. We preceded him everywhere he went. And it was neat to see everything, the way it worked and whatever. And I said this to my coworkers. We were talking about this yesterday, that the way it's supposed to work is when something like that goes down, the president of the United States, first of all, he goes down like he did, like he's supposed to, behind those bullet-resistant barricades. And when the subject's been neutralized, the president's feet are never to touch the ground from where he's at until he's in the armored security car and he's out of there. And he is gone just like that. And you could tell half of that team couldn't do that.
Nope.
Yeah, and I here's what gets me about this whole thing. And I started talking about it with Casey at home that night. I'm like, I'm just a regular dude. I have no clue about any of this stuff, but it's obvious. I would know that hey, that building right there is a perfect spot for someone to take a shot at the president. So if I know it, I mean, why wasn't it? The fact that
Eric,
it tells me, it makes me believe, makes me be that conspiracy guy. Yeah.
If we were playing Call of Duty like we do, would you not be worried? Would you not be worried a sniper? When you play Call of Duty, where do they get on? The buildings and the water towers. Come on. There was a water tower that nobody's even talking about, direct line of sight to Trump, that was not covered.
The highest point on the map.
That's right. And it was an easy spot. And then it makes me turn into this conspiracy theorist guy. You know, I'm like, how is that not? There's only one reason. It's got to be intentional or just extremely gross negligence. So then you watch these videos, again, not a gender thing, but you watch these videos of like the one lady agent, after they get him in the vehicle, she looks like me trying to holster my gun. She's like, I'm like, oh my God, that is not secret. I've watched Secret Service all my life. They're so freaking cool. That's not what that is. That's not what that looks like.
The two females, the one with the bun next to Trump was spot on, most of it.
Yep.
The female with the long ponytail and then the fupa, I can say that because I'm not employed anywhere, so I'll say it, with her gut hanging over the side, making it hard for her to holster. And the point of that is we have to have agents who are in shape. I'm not hating, but if I'm going to guard the president, I've got to be fit. I got to be ready to roll. I can't have a gut. Plus, it doesn't look good.
Do your job.
Part of protecting the president is looking like those agents were the first night of the RNC. When you look at them visually, you say, I ain't messing with that dude. Nope.
Those are bad dudes.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
And then they're running around. What you saw there was panic. Them running around, looking around, couldn't figure out, should my gun be out? Should it be holstered? I don't know. The president was just nearly killed. Do you think your gun needs to be out? I would guess probably so.
Did you see, Mike, the video of him taking him to the hospital?
Yeah, it was just
She's there again. She's there again.
Looking
the same
around.
lady, and she's doing the same thing. She's like,
dude.
So I'm like,
Go ahead, Casey.
So two things. My train of thought. Let me dive into my little canine world first and foremost. One of the beautiful things about being a dog handler, when a handler is with his dog together, you are, and this is what they taught us at canine school in Lackland, and then here again at the PD, is you are a psychological deterrent. You know why we put canine on the side of our vehicles? Because it is a psychological deterrent to anybody that sees that vehicle, that there is a dog in there that is capable of things. Same thing with Secret Service agents. Merely looking at them, their physical stature, the way they're built, the way they handle themselves, they are a psychological deterrent. I was not psychologically deterred by her actions. The other aspect of that is her actions there when they got into the Suburban is I equate it to just like we go to the range and we go through these drills that they teach us. Even I still do it today, and it's what we're supposed to do. You have a string of fire. The target presents itself. We shoot, and after we shoot, our gun is still at the ready, but it's just down a little bit, and we look to the left, look to the right. That's what she was doing because that's what she was trained to do. Did you see the other agents do that? No, you did not. And the fact that she had to look to see where to put her gun tells you that thing that probably doesn't come out of the holster very often.
Yep. No, and part of the training is being able to holster without looking at it, because if your eyes are down, you can't see anything.
Exactly.
And so another point I want to bring up is Trump's reaction to being shot. I have watched so many police video shootings trying to prepare myself back in the day, should I ever be presented, with a terrible situation, that I can handle it. And I've seen cops, even these are trained officers. I've seen cops take a nick on their arm and they'll get on the radio and say they're bleeding out. Their mental preparedness was awful. Like in their head, they're already dying because they played out and they're so scared of dying. They've already played it out in their head. And when they get the nick, they're like, oh, that's it. And they're already giving up. Okay, that's a loser mindset. You can't fake that. Either you're mentally prepared and then how you react is what you react. So that guy's a loser. I've seen cops when they get shot and they could even have a fatal wound and they're complete beasts, warriors going after the bad guy. So you can't fake your reaction to taking rounds. Trump, you can't fake the eyes. Did you see an ounce of fear in that man's eyes when he stood up? Tell me what y'all saw in his eyes when he stood up. What y'all see? Anybody?
So as you watch the video, there's the reaction to getting shot. Then he realizes what's happening. He knows what he's got to do. He's got to go down because that's what they've told him to do. When you first see the video, it's like, what was that? And then he's like, oh, and down he goes, and the agents are on him. They do what they got to do. Once he gets back up, then he's mad. He's angry, like, how dare you do that to me? Or not to me, but to us. If they'll do it to me, they'll do it to everybody. So, of course, he wanted to get up and he wanted to project his strength, I'm not afraid of you. What you just did has no effect on me. Here I am. I'm still here and I'm still going. And he went through that mental inventory as he was on the ground. It's just my ear. I think I'm okay. I'm still breathing. I'm talking. The agents are here. I'm safe. Let's get up and let's show these people that this had no effect on me.
And look what I think his reaction, Casey, you're exactly right. Well, look, I feel like his reaction had an effect on everybody there. No one ran, dude. No one ran. No one stampeded. Yeah. No one freaked out. They were all right there with him, dude. Chanting, fight. I got goosebumps right now, man. That is pure.
I didn't even think about that until he said it in his speech, and then I went back and watched it again. You're absolutely right that your conscience tells you when that happens, people want you to run. So everybody was down and like, what do we do? Oh wait, he's standing. He's staying. We're staying. So it was good. It was very good. Excellent.
Yes.
Where that comes to my mind.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris. Chris, we're blabbing. We're gonna give you a second. We've been blabbing like crazy.
I was just going to mention before I forgot about the lady. There's one more picture that I don't understand. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the context of it, and I'm not taking it right. But it sure looks like it is what it is. There's a picture of that same lady, the one we've been talking about, right after the shot, where all those agents are piled on top of Trump, and she's hunkered down behind this like a barrier. Is that right? Is she doing the right thing, or is that what I think it is?
So I have a thought on that, and then I want to get Chris's thought. He was trying to get in, and we blabbed over him.
Yeah.
But she should be fired for that. Number one, even if her job was external protection, like maybe she's not a body, maybe she's to be facing the crowd, she still failed at her job horribly. And I want to tell you, say a really good thing about the Secret Service. I saw a video from behind Trump, and the second the first shot sound came, you can watch all the people and you see what a normal human reaction is. It's this followed by seconds of their brain trying to figure out what happened. That first agent that got on Trump, it was epic. I mean, the sound barely got processed through this man's mind. And he was like on he floated, like it looked like he floated through the air and was on Trump first. Man, that dude, you want to talk about being mentally prepared? He had played that in his head so many times. And the second his brain processed it, it was amazing. Then you contrast that with Agent Fupa, and I'm sorry, it just is what it is. She panicked and didn't do anything, and she should be fired because I'm sorry, maybe it's not the most Christian thing in the world to say, but we're not talking about Christian stuff. We're talking about getting your job done, and either you're getting it done or you suck at it. Okay, and she sucks. She should be fired. What were you going to say, Chris?
Just the word that comes to my mind with President or former President Trump is resilience. That dude is everything he's been through, all the trial, everything they've thrown at him, and then to cap it off with this assassination attempt is just resilience. Like, I just looked up the definition, and it says resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustments to external and internal demands. Tough. It's just toughness. The dude's,
He is a dog.
Yeah.
And the
And
resilience.
before we move on for this, I want to just give a shout out to the guy that was killed as a result of those shots being fired. Mr. Corey Lemmon from Pennsylvania shielded his wife and kids, took a bullet, and passed away. That's tough. That's a hero, man, right there.
Yeah. I loved it when Trump took a moment just to go over there and kind of honor him during his speech, specifically make it about that guy for a minute. And dude, when he kissed his helmet, whoo, that guy, my allergies started acting up. And what a moment. Again, that whole week, and we don't need to go off on that, but that whole week, that whole convention was filled with moments that made me proud, man, made me inspired. And so even though that was a tragic thing that happened to President Trump, I'm very hopeful that maybe it's changed some people. Maybe it's made people look at things a little bit different. And so, I loved it.
Yeah. My thought just real quick was that the sniper still completed his mission. He was able to do what he set out to do. He killed somebody at the rally. It just was the wrong person. And that guy, the young man that was killed, your heart's got to go out to him and his family. That he was where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing at that time. He protected his family, and he lost his life, and it's tragic and it's awful, and that never should have happened. And the way the Trump campaign and everybody reacted to it, and the things they've done. He said during his speech that over $6 million have been raised for all the families that were involved in that. Money, having lost somebody, money doesn't mean anything to you. They could care less about the money. They want their loved one back. But that just speaks volumes to the outpouring of love for the families that were involved, and you wish them the very best, and that they're as little affected as humanly possible. Unfortunately, the family that lost their husband, their dad, their brother, their sibling, and all the other stuff, you'll never be able to fill that hole. But just it is what it is.
Here's a contrast for you. We raise money for the fallen victim. When there were riots in Minnesota, they were raising money to get people out of jail. Antifa members. Okay? That ought to tell you something, man.
Thank you all for listening to the show. I just want you guys to follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and however you listen to us, give us a review. It'll help us beat the algorithms. You see our content, share it. Help us get the word out to equip you guys to keep fighting the good fight. We love y'all. And again, thank you for listening to the show.
So we decided we're gonna go ahead and just keep talking about this historical moment with the Trump assassination attempt, but we're gonna bring Casey's agreed to come back so we can dedicate a full episode. He just gets rid of his notes. Forget this, man. I'm out. Because Casey is offering good insight as well. It's just a good flow episode. So we're going to bring him back to fully dedicate an episode to him, barring another assassination attempt or, the world ending between now and next week. So, Casey, thank you for coming back next week. But with that said, let's roll back into the Trump deal. Let's talk about the director of the Secret Service. Let's first, and we also don't let me forget. We got to talk about CrowdStrike and the outage that occurred, and let's talk about some of the connections of CrowdStrike, which are fascinating. But the director, does anybody find it odd, the lack of information that is being released? And coming from the police world, and I would talk about this with our chief, and we all were on the same page. Like when you're in police work, which is Secret Service, it's the same thing. The people are looking to you for a job. When something happens, you have to put out information as fast as you can get it, because when there's no information, people and the adversaries can fill it in with information that you don't want. They'll begin to come up with conspiracy. You have to stay ahead of the story. And so they're literally just hiding and giving no information on this. And they have a public duty to share this. This is our president, our former president. They have to share, and they're not sharing. And then when she did decide to share, first she said that building that we all would cover in Call of Duty was outside the perimeter. And then she came back 5 minutes later and said, we didn't put anybody up there because it was a sloped roof. Meanwhile, the counter sniper team is on a roof that's like this. And and it's a joke. Did you see them when they were washing the roof off? Whatever that was about. The FBI was up there. It looked like he was standing in his backyard washing it off. I mean, the slope was like this. So again, gross negligence or willful intent. And how is she not fired? What are y'all's thoughts on that? Like firing, I know everybody's like, well, that's not the solution to everything, but that restores public confidence immediately. So what are y'all's thoughts on that? We'll start with you, Eric.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's making you said it too, about if you don't put information out, you're going to get other theories and other pieces of information brought to you, whether you want it or not. And so it's got guys like me, just normal people, wondering, is there something else here? And then, like you said, she rolls out, well, it was outside the perimeter. I'm like, well, how is something that obvious 130 yards away? How's that outside the perimeter, first of all? And then number two, the sloped roof thing made me just go, oh, God, it is. There is something else going on here. Something is, and the fact that she still has a job, there's no answers. Like a few of our congressmen and senators, they've been given these conference calls and they can't ask questions, or they will only let certain people ask questions. Josh Hawley, I don't know if y'all been following him. He's up there. He's in Butler. He said he's been broadcasting or recording videos live from, or recording them and posting them on X from Butler, from the site. And he said there's more security there now than there was on the day. I mean, all these things are adding up to something's up. And I can't believe I'm even saying that, but I don't know where we go from here. What's next?
Casey, what are your thoughts on all that?
So I agree, Eric. So real quick, so just a little background of the Secret Service. Their original inception when they were created was to investigate counterfeit money in the United States. That's what their job was. It wasn't until later on, until I think after the first actual assassination attempt on one of our presidents, that they began taking on the job of presidential protection. The current director, and I refuse to use her name because I think it validates her existence, that she is an agent. She was an agent and she retired and she went to work for Pepsi, I believe it was, in charge of their global security or whatever. And then once our current federal administration went in and were ushered in, they selected her. And I think due to her beliefs and whatever, that she weakened the agency, and you get what you get. And I've read things where there were two other events going on at the same time of the Trump rally where the first lady was doing something, so there was assets there, and then somebody else was at something else, and other Secret Service assets were there. And the Trump campaign, they asked for protection due to things that were building up to happening prior to this. I really think just because of the way the Trump rallies have gone, they've been peaceful. There hasn't been any issues. There haven't been any problems. That a lot of things were taken for granted. Anything within 130 yards of anything is not outside the area of responsibility. Like the reporters were saying all this week, you take anybody that halfway knows anything about marksmanship and can hit a target with 130 yards. In the Marine Corps, when I was trained, we were trained to shoot our rifles with iron sights, no any kind of scope or anything. 200, 300, and 500 yards. And I was telling my buddy yesterday, at 500 yards, you know what a human being looks like at 500 yards looking down a rifle barrel at iron sights? The front sight post is the same size as your target. So 130 yards is like standing feet away from something and throwing a towel at it and hitting it. You'd have a hard time missing it. So I absolutely think that she needs to be, regardless of whatever's going on, she needs to be brought in front of Congress. She needs to answer questions, hard questions. She needs to have her feet put to the fire. And then once the meetings or the whatever it is concluded, fired on the spot. Absolutely, 100%.
Certain actions call for certain measures, and whether this was like an accident or if it was gross negligence, whatever the reason, they need to make an example out of her. There was too many red flags, right. The no answers, all this stuff, all these red flags. Somebody, if they were really on our side, they would give us some answers. They would fire her on the spot. Like Casey said, make her answer the hard questions. And them not doing that leads us to believe it's even more of a conspiracy, like that it was on purpose. You hate to even say that.
Mike, sorry. And Mike, this from our previous employer, and I'm not just saying our department, I'm saying law enforcement in general and the military, that sadly you all know that the low man on the totem pole is the one that's going to fade the heat for this. You'll see agents fired. You'll see police officers fired. And they've already started pointing fingers at the local agency that apparently was a small town anyway, that they had a small number of police officers anyway. And they're already casting shadow and doubt on those guys. That it was their responsibility, not the Secret Service. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a presidential candidate who has Secret Service protection. Ultimately, that responsibility falls on the Secret Service, and the agent in charge of that should be held accountable, as well as the director of the Secret Service.
Well, it's I think because we all judge these things through our perspective of our own life, and having been in the military and having been in the police department and doing investigations on officers, we hold ourselves accountable. When I was in the military, a friend of mine used his government American Express that you would get for deployments. He used it to buy alcohol. He got Article 15, had to go to Lawton, Oklahoma, and spend like 30 days in jail. Okay, so I lived my whole life, and in the police department, it was the same way. We held people accountable. So that's my mindset. And then I look at this government from the FBI and all the other stuff that has happened. Why people are not held accountable, and it's disturbing. And the second that a system people are not held accountable, that system breaks, and we're watching it break before our eyes. So what about, and then let's talk about coincidences. We had yet another coincidence. The night he becomes the nominee, after he speaks, all Microsoft systems go down due to a CrowdStrike update. Literally put it down for a day. And so in my conspiratorial mind, which conspiratorial is a negative term, but maybe it's just common sense where we just look at facts, because that's what I try to do. When you do an investigation, you have to look at just facts. and not speculate. But this coincidence that has occurred put the computers down. And now that I'm retired, I can begin to speculate and do a little bit of conspiratorial thinking. But, like, what do investigators do all their work on? All of our work they're done on Microsoft computers, and you're pounding away. You're pulling up backgrounds, you're writing your report, you're doing everything. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, is that to give them a day? Was that to give them a day to get off the trail? Because in our technology-driven world, investigations now, they're all done through the computer. I mean, after the first day of processing the crime scene, it is all computer work. And yet they were down for a day. So, Chris, you just got your degree in IT. What are your thoughts on this? This has never happened before. That this happened the night Trump was become the nominee. So what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
For one, when we were in school, you learn to, especially when you're doing programming and coding and all this stuff, you debug and you constantly check and you're running checks. If you have even a comma out of place in a code, it will fail. It won't run right. It'll debug. So my first thought is, it makes you wonder, they sent out this update that causes everything to crash. Did they not check it? Did they not run any checks, any test? This massive of an update, you would think, I don't know if they did or didn't, but with it failing like that, you would assume that they did not check it at all, or run any type of decoding or debugging or anything, And that's one thing I hated the worst going through school is writing code, and I'll never do it. I'll never be employed writing code because it sucks. But like I said, and that was the problem. You'd have one little period, not capitalize a letter, one comma out of place, and the whole thing fails. It's error, So not to be a conspiracy theorist, but to be a conspiracy theorist, something's up, And then when you do the research and find that CrowdStrike is owned by BlackRock, it's just too much. Mike said, how many conspiracies or how many coincidences are we going to have? And I said, coincidences, ? We're past that.
Yeah.
Eric, what's your thought?
When it gets to the, as my brother-in-law Chris will tell you, I'm probably out of the four of us, I'm by far the sharpest technology guy. I do write code. I write code all the time. And I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm the absolute dude. I just know, I'm agree with Mike. The timing of this, I have no idea about any of this stuff when it gets into anything technical. I'm absolutely terrible with computers anyway. Or Call of Duty for that matter, Mike, you were talking about that earlier. Can't even believe, I thought you were about to ask me for what my strategy of Call of Duty was going to be. I'm like, try to get out of the door.
No,
but anyway.
It would be better than what they did, though, Eric. That is the problem.
Yes, that's true. You're right. Stop. Okay, quit. I'm with Mike, though. It's all about the timing of this thing. And from the CrowdStrike thing to Trump's assassination, I mean, we're learning more about this every day, and both of them stink to high heavens. We're learning things like Iran was planning to assassinate Trump. This kid apparently had 3 encrypted accounts overseas. Does this have anything? What is going on with all of this? I don't even know where to start, but it absolutely is making me a conspiracy theorist. So,
Casey?
So, yeah, I agree with you. Big time, Eric. As I'm listening to y'all talk, it popped in my head that I didn't really even think of it that way, that it was just one of those ironic things that, of course, during this current administration, and then now the election stuff is fastly approaching, and then this happens, that you watch It'll start coming out probably within days that valuable evidence regarding Trump's assassination attempt is now gone because it was part of the data that was in the servers, and now the servers are damaged and that data is gone. And so you'll see all that kind of stuff. Kind of a funny part of it. I saw a couple of funny things on TikTok with all these people stuck at airports, and they played funny music, and Southwest jets were landing and taking off. And the reason why is because the Southwest is still running off of Commodore 64 down in somebody's basement that's been locked in a trunk where you can't get to it. But they're still flying. So who's the dummy now? Anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
The point on that too, a few months ago, Southwest Airlines had a glitch because their systems
because they didn't update their stuff. Yep.
And yet that's the only thing that kept them going. An interesting thing that I saw too, I actually watched Trump, an old interview where he came on and spoke to, is it just me or did Chris just disappear?
He did. There he is.
That was magic. So I saw an interview with Fox News where Trump had called in when he was going against Hillary. And guess what? Remember the DNC servers? They wouldn't hand them over to the FBI. Guess who they handed them to, friends? CrowdStrike. And then I find out that the former 25-year vet of the FBI is in one of the top 3 positions in CrowdStrike. And so, again, how many coincidences are we going to have? And what did they do? So when a system's down, there is but one person who can make changes within that system, and that's probably going to be CrowdStrike. 100%. What happened? What was done when everything was offline? Like you said, Eric, evidence disappearing. I don't know, but I just found it ironic that these connections just keep getting made. And I'm trying to do good and not jump into tinfoil hat world. But at some point, this is not tinfoil hat. This is common sense stuff.
And if you send out this update to everything, we didn't just narrow it down to where those files will be, the evidence files will be, or whatever. You crashed everything, so it doesn't look as obvious. We're watching FP1 and they have blue screen of death at Mercedes. That was for real. That really happened.
CrowdStrike's a huge sponsor of Mercedes.
Yeah.
In F1.
Those big jumbotrons that they have down in Times Square in New York, like half of them were the blue screen of death, and it was like, what's going on?
Yeah, the only people who could function were Apple Mac users and people who hadn't done the update. And I read or heard in a podcast one time that the government has put backdoors into all Microsoft products when it was a good intention thing. Like everything, it becomes a good intention is then used by the bad guys. And the intention for that was we were able to read all the governments of the world, their stuff that was happening. So that's how we would know what was going on inside Russia. That's how we knew everything, was because everyone, it's like 95% of the world uses Microsoft Office. And so it kind of makes you wonder here, what's going on with that. But
it was put in perspective for me how quickly the entire world can be shut down. One click of a button, boom, and everything's crippled. People, you can't get in your bank account, you can't get on a plane, you can't use your debit card. I mean, complete shutdown. One push of a button, just shut down everything. It's mind blowing, really.
Kind of makes you want to be a prepper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
let me ask you guys with all of this. So I'm looking at all of this, these events that are unfolding, and this is an election year in the United States. I know we're supposed to just give all this to God, because he's in control. We shouldn't be worried about things, but I can't help it. So what do y'all think? Where is all this going as we lead up to the election this year? What's going to happen? I mean, I feel like I think Michigan this week said they've made it illegal to recount votes now. That's another conspiracy theory. But I mean, where do you think all this stuff that's happening? Where are we headed? What's going to happen? So are they going to let Trump win this year? What's going to happen?
At this point, all of your traditional thinking of the way everything operates has been completely destroyed. So there is no telling where this goes. And we haven't touched on this, and we can touch on this now, that Biden is allegedly going to step down today. And again, that's an insult to this republic, because the very party that says every vote matters, they're literally going to force Biden out, and all of those votes cast in the Democratic primary are completely meaningless. This is what they do in third world countries. They don't like who they got, so they push them out, and then they install the person that they want. That is unfair. They're not going to get the scrutiny. You're supposed to go through 2 years of just pure scrutiny to be able to make it to the presidency. And this person is going to get 3 months of honeymoon reporting. They're the greatest thing since sliced bread. All the media is going to pile onto him. It'll take everything away from Trump, because this is, I don't think it's been done before. And again, let's talk about another coincidence. He says, I will step down if I have a medical diagnosis. And the next day he gets COVID. I mean, are you kidding me, bro? Like COVID, who gets it anymore? What is it? A cold now? You don't even hear about it. And the next day it's cold. Come on. What's happening?
Yeah. Did you see when he announced he had COVID and he was going back to Delaware? He gets out of the SUV to board the plane. He's sick. He's showing symptoms. He gets out with COVID, gets out of the beast SUV, gets on his plane, not wearing a mask. He's surrounded by all these people, and they're like, look, it's a super spreader. He's a super spreader. I mean, they didn't even bother to put a mask on him to make it look real. Yeah. Not that masks do any good, but I'm just saying, yeah, this dude ain't got COVID. That cat ain't got COVID.
What you got, Casey?
So a couple things to your question, Eric. I really think we are living in the beginning of what God says is going to happen before he comes back and he collects us all. I think we're actually in the middle. We're that's happening, and granted, we may or may not be around when he comes back, but I think those things are beginning to happen. Is why things are happening. Why he's allowing those things to happen is you're seeing what's right is wrong, what's up is down, what's left is it's all those things. So I say that because now more than ever we need to keep doing what we're doing. Podcasts like this, where we're four honest Christian men who have our faults, and we aren't perfect, and we know we're not perfect, and we surround ourselves with unperfect people. And we accept the fact that we are Christians and God is the one in charge. And we tell people, hey, you need to get ready because he's coming back and we don't know when. Those things are occurring. I teach ninth grade Sunday school at my church, and I love it. I get to meet these kids and talk to them and really, I just love everything about it. And one of the things I tell them is heaven's not full of saints. It's full of sinners. There's a lot of evil, bad people that are in heaven that they saw the light and they know what they needed to do, and God's grace saved them. So we all have to get our minds right. The other thing is politics aside, left, right, indifferent. I don't care who you vote for, just as long as you get out and vote. I think it's very important. That's one of our God-given rights as Americans, is we get to vote for our next leader. And the fact for 200-something plus years we've been able to do it. And George Washington did it best, where he gave up his power to somebody else. And they're like, why would you do that? And that's the right thing to do. And I think that's what makes us head and shoulders above all these other countries. But the fact one is I hate what they've done to this 80-something-year-old grandfather, husband, brother, how they've done him. And what they're going to do to him when they're done to him is evil and wrong, and criminal charges should be filed on all those people. That's a human being, and what they've done to him is absolutely wrong. The other part of this is the way our Constitution works is his number two, who accepted the nomination, accepted the ticket, and got elected as being the heartbeat away from the president, who they think is capable, should anything happen to our president, she should step in and be able to take over as president. And now they're telling us, okay, well, maybe, yeah, he's not gonna run for re-election, but we don't like her either. They're doing her a disservice. She has every right to be the next person up because she's been in the role. She's been doing the job. It should absolutely be her. We're more familiar with her. She should actually be and if they go with anybody else, it's a slap in the face to her. It's a slap in the face of our system, our Constitution, and everything we stand for as Americans. And again, I don't appreciate the people that are making that happen. She deserves the opportunity to win or lose, just like anybody else that runs for that office. And I just think it's just horrible what these people are doing to our president, our vice president right now.
Well, I don't know. I know Chris and Eric probably saw the Ben Rich interview with Tucker Carlson, where he talked about his song Resurrection, which is awesome. And he actually talks about that, and he talks about how, and he made such a good point. You know, when we were in the 80s, when we read about the mark of the beast, it wasn't possible. Like, how does everybody going to get tattoos? No, that's not going to happen. Well, now he makes a point that with technology, this is now possible. Like, the mark of the beast can occur, and that mark will not be an obvious, I am this, you know, it's going to be something subtle that we all agree to, whether it's a digital ID, you name it. I mean, they're already talking about, you know, where you can put a chip in your hand and you just scan it at the hospital and they have all your records. But what are y'all's thoughts on that? I'll start with you, Chris, that the mark of the beast wasn't really possible, and now it is. What are your thoughts on that?
It's 100% possible now, and you've got these BRIC nations. They're also trying to do away with the American dollar and make this one world currency and all this. And it just like Casey said, man, everything is aligning. I think we are living in the last days, and how far are we in? I have no idea. But I think whatever happens politically in the world is all about to bring about the end. These things have to happen. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go vote. That doesn't mean any of that. But whatever happens has to happen to bring about the end. And we, just like I have, you guys have too, your whole life you've heard, Jesus is coming back soon. We're living in the end. He could come back tomorrow. And I think we just like, really? No, that's not true. That's not true. But it's not cliche to say now, because I really think with everything happening, like you said, Mike, there's technology in place for the mark of the beast. What is it going to be? I don't know. Is the beast going to be AI? Possibly. I think that's very much possibility. So what I do know is we are living in the last days. Revelation is being played out right before our eyes over in Israel. If you look what's happening to Israel, it's right out of the Bible, man. It really is. Yeah. And the Bible also says that in the last days will be as the days of Noah. And, it's people, right it's backwards, right is wrong and wrong is right, and it says people will be given away in marriage and be drunk and all this stuff, and they won't even realize when Jesus comes back, and they'll be stuck here, because they weren't ready. They weren't watching. And we have to be watching. We have to be ready.
That's good perspective, guys. Very good perspective. It's something you got. It's, again, I know that, but it's hard sometimes, the human, the guy, I don't want it to be the end. I don't want it to be the end. I want things to be, I want my kid my kids and grandkids to grow up in a great country that we had, and I want things to keep going. But I do know in my heart that that's where we're headed. So,
but where we're going, we can't even wrap our mind around.
that's right.
Where we're going. Like, your brain can't even comprehend. You can try, but the sheer peace, the sheer love that we're going to feel, and, you know, right out of the Bible, we're not going to feel pain and sorrow and sadness. There's not going to be any worry, none of that. And it's just, you know, I can remember as a kid, you know, you get, the rapture's happening. And I felt the same way. I was like, I want to grow up. I want to get married. I want to have kids. You know, that's going to be taken away from me. But the older I get, I'm like, it's just going to be amazing. Like, it really
Great perspective, Chris.
You're like,
Great perspective.
You're like, bring it on, because two things had to happen for the end times to begin. Israel founding as a country was probably the biggest thing that had to happen. And that's obviously happened. And the next thing will be, what can destroy Israel? They're so powerful as a little country. Well, Iran getting a nuclear weapon is a game changer and helping bring about, I think, the end times. Did you have anything, Casey, you wanted to add on that before I move on to something else?
No, sir. I'm with you 100%.
I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
You talk about Israel becoming a nation and all that. America had a huge play in that, and I think now America's job is done in the situation, in the world stage with the end times, because it's all going to play over in Israel, in the Middle East. And if you look at Revelation 19, it talks about, you know, these ships at sea watching this country burn and all that. And if you put America in that, if you read Revelation 19 and you put America in that, I think it plays perfectly. And like I said, I think America's job is done on the world stage as far as the end times. That is all.
Wow.
No, I agree.
Wow.
It had to happen. And Israel could not have been founded. It was impossible without this country funneling in those arms, backing them up whenever they were being attacked to help them establish their country. And like you said, mission accomplished. You know, it's done. I want to go back to the security on Trump. One more thing as we kind of start getting close to our close here. Again, just basing things off of my own experience. I remember we had president come and landed at Tinker, and they'll do that instead of going into Oklahoma City because they're landing on a secure base. And he only had a mile and a half to drive out of our base, a mile and a half on a military base. We had civilians there, but it's 1,000 times more secure than the airport. They had snipers on every building, or a Secret Service agent on every building going out of the base. That's a mile and a half. And again, you come back and compare that to what we just witnessed, and it just does not add up. I mean, it was pitiful. And and they said that, I mean, you think about it, they were pointing at a guy on top of a roof. People were taking photos of it. And again, law enforcement communication experience here. You have a command post. Like when we did this Final Four security, HPD had a command post up with live feeds of all of our drones and everything else that they had. And we would report something, or they would call back to us and say, hey, they're pushing up, because we were worried about stampedes, you know, or medical issues in the crowd. So they would direct our drone to go look over here at something going on in this corner. That is normal. And then they say, well, radio communications. Well, that's not unusual either. Since 9/11, we learned communications. So what do? You put the local agency in the command post, so that when somebody gets a message on the radio and they don't have access to that radio, he turns and says, they're reporting a guy on the roof. And yet none of this happened. Did they even have a command post there? Because it's looking like just completely oblivious. And then the guy was seen walking around with a spotting scope. Again, law enforcement, we check out suspicious stuff. We walk up to you and go, hey, bro, what's going on, man? You just out here walking around. What you got there? You got a spotting scope? You just talk to people, bro. It is not rocket science.
Yes.
Not one officer walked up to this guy and said, hey, man, what are you doing? What's going on? You're here to see Trump, man. Tell me about your day.
Well, I think some of the reports even said that at one point in time they lost him. They couldn't find him again. And that was part of the problem. And I do think I read somewhere that there was a command post, and it might have been further away than he actually was when he took the shots. So
unreal. It's just, did you see the video of the like, I guess it was the reaction force? They got stuck behind the fence. That is all just so embarrassing. It's just,
they were ramming the fence.
They had to ram the fence with the dude. Unreal,
and
man.
Still couldn't get through. If a guy is just taking a shot at the president, let me tell you, put me in that car, buddy, and I will get through that fence.
Mike Norman will get you through that fence on a regular Saturday.
Yes.
If you just say, hey, get me through that fence. Mike Norman will get through that fence.
They were barely tapping it. We were taught on a school shooting.
Yeah, that's what we were going to say. Yep.
You go to a door and it's locked. We all prepped this. Buddy, my car is driving through that door into the building. And I'm like, all my career, I've taken every job I've had so serious and planned it. And if I was in charge of an operation, even if it was just a proactive operation, we deploy our drones for, man, we had a pre-plan, lined out, like we put a tracker on a car. We had everything planned out. If they walk out and see our undercover guys placing a tracker, if one of our guys gets shot, which is possible because they could think we're breaking into the car, we would list where's the nearest hospital. We had plans in place for all this. And then I look at what's happening up there and just nothing makes sense. Like, did I take my job too serious in little old Pasadena, Texas, population 150,000, that I took everything so serious? Because it's like everybody else is unserious in their jobs.
Yep.
Yes.
And
and it never stopped. We just keep getting more and more of this information every day. And it gets worse every day.
It does.
Yeah, it's almost like people aren't taking responsibility for it. They're like, somebody else will take responsibility for it. I'm not going to worry about that.
Yeah. And as an American citizen, the fact that I can't rest assured or rest comfortably knowing, like the day they announced the FBI is officially taking over this investigation, instead of being, all right, here we go, we're fixing to get to the bottom of this crap, somebody's ass is on the line, I was like, well, there goes that.
Yep.
I'm sorry. That's what I thought. I'm like, well, there goes that.
Yep.
You know?
100%.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it. Hey, one thing I wanted to hit that you said earlier, Casey, about you hated what they're doing to Joe Biden, the little old man, and how they're going to, the party of protecting democracy, and because everything's a threat to democracy. So what they're about to do, it made me think back. Do you remember what they did to old Crazy Bernie when they realized he was fixing to beat?
Oh, yeah.
He was going to beat Hillary, and they were like, we can't have that. So they nipped that in the bud.
Yep.
They're going to do the same thing right here. They're about to nip this in the bud.
Yep.
Has nothing to do with the people, what the people voted for. They're going to nip it in the bud, send Papa out to go fishing. And yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty ironic.
You know,
you're
The party
exactly
of
right.
protecting democracy.
Hey, Mike, you and I were thinking the same thing. You were talking about our school shooter and all the training we've been through. And now that I have my involvement with the school board, we have these conversations come up all the time. And as a member of the school board, and plus now that I'm the president, I go to all their security meetings and everything they talk about. And every once in a while it comes up. And I remember there's a couple of conversations I remember having with the superintendent. I was like, you do know that because with technology and everything, I can walk up to any school as a police officer, call our school district police department and say, hey, I'm Officer So-and-so. I'm standing outside blank, blank, intermediate. I need to get in the front door. Can you open the door for me? Give them a couple seconds. I can push a button or something like that, and the door, I can get in. And, when technology goes down, that feature is no longer there. So when a school shooting happens, we show up on scene and we need to get into a building. We're trained that we'll go up to the door, pull on the door. If we can't get in, there's no key and we don't have access within a few seconds. Yep. Guess what becomes our key? That 60,000 pound Tahoe, and we drive it into the lobby of your school. And our superintendent's like, do it. And it's a wonderful thing. And you have to think like that.
And you wouldn't even hesitate.
Nope.
And that's why.
And also too, talk about Trump when they were getting him ushered off stage. Again, the way I've been trained and the way I'm designed, like if I'm a Secret Service agent, the second you have someone is taking a shot at you, you are no longer in charge, Trump. I'm in charge. And I would be like, you get your damn head down. I don't care about you waving. While I loved it, I am in charge in the next. Until you get to that Tahoe, brother, I am running this show. And I'm grabbing you, and you can stick your shoes. I don't care about your shoes. I don't care about standing up.
Yep.
If I was up there, you would have saw me fighting with Trump. So get your head down. I take my job serious. Get your head down. I'm moving you to the truck. You can do all your political crap later. Shove your shoes where the sun don't shine. I'm in charge till I get you in that van. Again, are these people not serious? Have they practiced in their mind what is happening?
Yep. There's a real good example of that. I can't think. I don't remember if it was in a movie or it was on the West Wing. I remember seeing it, and there's a scene where they're talking about something, and the president's like, "I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going." And his agent burst in the room and said, "Mr. President, you're either coming with us, or we're going to snatch you up and we're going to drag you down to the bunker. Your feet will never touch the ground. You have no say-so in it whatsoever. I don't care what happened. I don't care if we bump, bruise, or hurt your ego or anything like that, but you will be protected all the way to this place, and there's nothing you can do about it." You're absolutely right. He is the president of the United States, but it's our job to protect you, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. And that's what they failed to do on Saturday with that shooting. Is they needed to get him out of there as soon as humanly possible to a safe location and assess what happened and go from there. 100%.
Holding a hand up to stop a rifle round. I mean, I can't do it. Anybody else have any
final thoughts on this?
Chris?
No, I'm going to wrap it up if we're done.
Yeah. If nobody else has anything.
We could go all day.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be more news coming, so I'm sure we'll have to hit on this several times.
But that's all I got.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we sign off completely, if this talk about what's going on in our country and what's going on worldwide, if it scares you, I want to give you an opportunity to be unscared. Romans 10:9-10 says, "If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved." If you would like to become saved today, all you have to do is say a little prayer. And I'm going to say that prayer, and you can repeat the prayer, and your name will be written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Instantly, you're justified, instantly saved by grace through faith, and you won't have to worry about what is to come for our country or for the world. Let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus, I know that I'm a sinner, and I ask for your forgiveness. I believe that you died for my sins and rose from the dead. I turn from my sins today and invite you to be the Lord of my life. I want to trust and follow you as my Lord and Savior. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good job.
If you pray that prayer, let us know in the comments.
Life After Sunday
we love
podcast.
Y'all,
we hope
and
you
keep
enjoyed
fighting
it.
a good fight.
Please give us a like and a comment, and go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.